Morning, friends. Pastor Al here. It's Thursday, March 13th. Have you ever been in a place that God put you there for a purpose? And maybe you didn't realize that at the time, but later, maybe even years later, you look back and say, oh, yeah, God had me there, and I know that. Um, you look at the book of Esther in the Old Testament, and Esther became queen of Persia. She was Jewish. That was an arch enemy. And yet God put her there. And the famous verse that probably you've heard and most of us have, Esther 4:14. Her uncle Mordecai said to her, if you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. What more, who can say but that you have been elevated to the palace for just a time as this? I was thinking back on years ago, we were living in southern Minnesota and farming a small farm, and I was working for my neighbor, milking cows, and and the job was good and everything, and everything was going along fine in the spring of the year, about this time of the year, I guess. My boss, Dwayne, his son, decided he didn't like going to college. And so he wanted to come back to the farm. So I got word that, I'm going to lose my job. And, it's like, okay. So for some reason, I stopped in at the bank and talked to our banker who had bought a golf course in west central Minnesota. And he was not an easy guy to talk to. In fact, for 2 or 3 years in a row, he won the staring contest in the community. And so, and here I am, this young guy, 22 or 24 or something. And so anyway, I went in and just talked to him and said, hey, you think, anybody got a farm for rent up in that area? It's like, I need to get out of this neck of the woods. Well, it turned out he knew a very good friend of his had a farm he owned, and his son is running it. He was leaving. Anyway, it turned out that we got that job. We moved to Deer Creek, Minnesota. It's like, well, the first thought was it was to for the job, but that's where God moved me into ministry. So you look back on this moment, but God had a greater plan. He put you in the place just for a time as this. Now, yeah, I didn't save the Jewish people, and it wasn't spectacular like what Esther happened, but to know that God uses us, puts us in places at just the right time. So just be aware of that and give God praise. Have a blessed day.